What's the story, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? The All-Ireland Senior Football Championship group stage draw has happened. The Tailteann Cup group stage draw has happened as well. It's thrown up some very, very interesting draws, some interesting games. We're going to be looking at both draws, breaking them down, and we're not going to predict them in this video. I will actually do a predictions for both the group stages and the Tailteann Cup when we know for certain who is going to be in the group stages in what sort of format, if that makes sense. But we're here to react to the draw, so let's do this. So you'll see on screen there the draw for the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship group stage. Is obviously a new format this year, and I'm still not solely convinced on the group stages. I've said that before, but I think that's besides the point, in fairness. And do you know what? Seeing the draw and everything else, it was actually quite exciting, and it's something else for us to discuss and react to. But you can see the draw right there on screen. So Group 1 will feature the Munster winners, which most likely we would say would be Kerry, Leinster runners up, which I think we'd most likely feel would be Louth. Although, after Dublin's performance last week, you just never know. Mayo and Cork in there as well. So the possibility of Kerry and Mayo playing each other, and Kerry and Cork as well, let's not forget, playing each other in the group stages is quite fascinating indeed. And certainly from a Cork fan perspective, it's a very tough group, isn't it? And certainly for Matthew Hurley, who would have watched this draw as well, who's obviously a regular on the channel, I'm sure he would have been looking at this thinking that is not what we wanted. Group 2 has the Connacht winners, which you'd imagine would be Galway, and the Ulster runners up, which could be Armagh. I mean, that's a very interesting group as well, isn't it? Tyrone obviously in there as well. Could have Tyrone versus Galway possibly. And for Westmeath, I mean, that is probably one of the worst groups they could have asked for, to be honest with you. And I don't see them picking up any points from any of those games. Group 3, the Leinster winners, which you'd imagine would be Dublin, the Connacht runners up, which could very likely be Sligo, and then Roscommon and Kildare. So certainly from a Dublin perspective, it's probably the easiest group we could have asked for. But to be honest with you, as a Dublin fan, it's not the group I wanted. I wanted a tough group. I want us to have tough games because we haven't had tough games all year. And to be honest with you, that's not really what I want to see. But the main positive is we might see Glen Ryan cry once again in Croke Park, and that'd be great to see. Group 4, we've got the Ulster winners, which might be Derry. Derry will be going in as favourites, possibly Clare as the Munster runners up, and then Monaghan, Donegal as well. So a lot of Ulster sides there in Group 4. Very, very fascinating indeed. And yeah, some interesting groups. Obviously, let's not forget it's the top 3 that progress. So the winners of the groups will go automatically into the All-Ireland quarterfinals. And then the second place teams will face the third place teams. So it certainly should make for interesting viewing. We've plenty of comments flying in there, so we'll get to them in just a moment. We'll have a look at how things look in the Tailteann Cup there as well. So Group 1, we've got Cavan, Offaly, Laois and London. Group 2 is Meath, Down, Tipperary and Waterford. And Group 3 is Limerick, Wicklow, Longford and Carlow. Group 4, Fermanagh, Antrim, Wexford and Leitrim. I believe it's the same as well in the Tailteann Cup, with the winners going straight through to the quarterfinals, and then the second place sides against the third place team. So yeah, looking at Group 1, I mean, Cavan and Offaly, probably two of the best sides in the competition, going, in the same group. And Meath and Down as well. Like, if Meath can get their act together, they should certainly be one of the contenders, and Down are certainly a contender. So very interesting. Meath and Down, you think of two hugely historical counties. Down the joint most successful county in terms of All-Ireland Senior Football Championships. I believe alongside Cavan and Tyrone. Don't quote me on that. And then Meath, obviously one of the most successful counties of all time. But here they are, both in the Tailteann Cup. Group 3 definitely going to be a very open group. You'd imagine Limerick, Wicklow, Longford, and Carlow, and then Group 4 for Fermanagh, Antrim, Wexford, and Leitrim. So it is interesting. You've probably got you could argue the 4 best teams in this competition. Both in Group 1 and Group 2. So that certainly makes for some fascinating for a fascinating draw indeed. Yeah, let's read through some comments here. Emma O'Sullivan says Dublin got the easiest draw. We certainly did. We certainly did get the easiest draw, provided we beat Louth. If we don't beat Louth, though, I mean, as Larry McCarthy was saying during the draw there, like we could end up getting, we could possibly end up getting Mayo, Cork, and could be in the same group as Mayo, Cork, and Kerry, which will be absolute madness. You're talking about Kerry, Dublin, and Mayo. There were 3 sides who were all sort of, I think during most people's lifetime, they've been the 3 sides competing most for Sam. But the crazy thing is with the draw, they'd all still probably go through anyway. It would just be unfortunate for Cork, but yeah, like, to be honest with you, even as a Dublin fan, like, I don't want us to lose the Leinster final, but it might sound a bit crazy. I'd rather be in that group with Mayo and Kerry than the other group, because we get to see where we're at. We get to play a tough side, because what I wanted from a Dublin point of view is for us to play a Mayo, to play a Tyrone, and get a tough game, and then we know exactly where Dublin are at, how they compete against the top side, and we'll be able to learn from it and sort of go from it. Whereas, yes, we play Roscommon, and in fairness, Roscommon, very, very good side, and to be honest with you, Roscommon will probably fancy their chances at actually winning that group. And what a story that would be. But I think it would be tough for, I think, Roscommon. I think we would be playing Roscommon and Croke Park. We'll actually go through what the most likely scenario is in terms of fixtures as well. But could be likely we play Roscommon and Croke Park if we do win the Leinster Championship. So that would sort of open up. It would just be like, I wouldn't want to say it's a formality, because we only scrape past Kildare, in fairness, but you would look at it and think it's going to be there's not going to be a huge amount of tests there other than the Roscommon game, in fairness. From a Roscommon fan perspective, hoping Sligo don't cause an upset in Connacht, but Louth do in Leinster. But if Louth were to Dublin, would not be a threat to Mayo anyway. Yeah, look, and I'd say as a Roscommon fan, you're delighted, because, to be honest with you, out of all the provincial winners, I think the team you probably would have wanted, in my opinion, would have been Dublin. Dublin were the side I think that people wanted, in my opinion. So there you go. Like, especially after their performance the other day as well. But there you have it. But in fairness to Roscommon, I mean, look, they'll certainly fancy their chances. At beating the Dubs in that game. Ella says expects Dublin to make it through. And Group 2, group of death, poor Westmeath. Yeah, it's going to be very, very tough indeed for Westmeath to get out of there. Mikey says Kerry, Louth, and Cork, not a great group for Mayo. Yeah, it definitely will be a tough group from their perspective. I mean, to be drawn in there with Kerry and Cork, I think will be very, very difficult indeed. Porrick says Kildare, home game versus Dublin. It could be likely, but look, it would be great to see Glen Ryan, whinge and moan once again in Croke Park after the game. I think it would be great to see. Maybe we should just give Kildare the game against Dublin and Croke Park just to annoy them, that way. But there we go. But all jokes aside, I think it'd be great to have the game in Newbridge, and look, it'd be great for us to turn them over in their own backyard, and then what, they can be a little bit more quiet then. Patrick says I'm happy with the draw that Meath got. Yeah, look, you have a tough game in there, which I think is what Meath fans would have wanted. They would have wanted a tough game against the likes of a Down or someone of that ilk, and in fairness, that's what they got. Whoever wins the Dublin v Roscommon game will top the group. Wouldn't write off Roscommon with the year they're having. Yeah, like, I genuinely would believe Roscommon are going in as favourites. They're certainly going in as favourites in my opinion. Especially with the way that Dublin performed in Leinster. Like Roscommon will definitely fancy their chances, even if the game is in Croke Park, because Roscommon will probably set up similarly to what Kildare did, but they'll be better at it and they'll be more efficient. So there you go. Miguel says, Armagh fan desperate to avoid Group 2, but Ulster final versus Derry won't be easy, but a game versus Tyrone always has edge on it should we end up in that group. Like it's just going back through the groups again, like it is a very tough group, like to be drawn in there with Tyrone, possibly Galway as well. But again, because of the way these group stages are, it's probably very likely you go through anyway. You do go through anyway because it's the top three. Apparently, the games between the second and third sides are going to go to a neutral venue, so there probably isn't that much jeopardy anyway. To be honest with you, but there we go. Like Group 4 probably has the makings of a group that could go down to the wire. Like you'd imagine the Ulster champions, Monaghan, will go through. But look, I think Clare are a much better place than Donegal at the minute. So like when you look at it there, like I think Clare have a real chance at possibly getting to another All-Ireland quarter-final, and to do that 2 years in a row would be an extraordinary achievement. But fairness to the likes of Kildare and possibly even Sligo as well, like they'll look at that Group 3 as well and believe they do have a serious chance. In fairness, I think what we'll do is we'll actually just we'll have a look at, I suppose, the most likely way that the fixtures are actually going to be. So as we can see here, this was uploaded from the GAA's official website there a couple of months back. So you can see the, I suppose, most likely scenario or the actual way the games are going to go. So game 1, seed 1 versus seed 3. So it would actually put, if Dublin were to win the Leinster Championship, it would mean the first game will be Dublin versus Roscommon. You think of it as well there, like you could have, is it the Ulster winners against Tyrone as well, which is like you're going to have a lot of big games there for your game 1. And actually your seed 2 against the seed 4 possibly opens up a scenario there as well, where whoever gets the win on that opening day could possibly leave themselves in with a serious chance of progression. But you can see there as well. So game 2 will be seed 3 versus seed 2, seed 4 versus seed 1. So in that scenario, game 2 from a Dublin perspective would be away to Kildare, which would be an interesting one there as well. So there's certainly some interesting formalities there. We'll just run through a few more comments here. Patrick says Limerick and Longford won't be an easy group to get out of. Yeah, look, it has the makings of being I suppose a quite a even group and could definitely go down to the wire, in fairness. Jamie says Monaghan in the mini Ulster group will most likely Clare thrown in to spice it up. Yeah, look, and as I said before, like you'd give Clare a serious chance of actually getting out of that group, in fairness. McGow says 3 teams progress. That is correct. 3 teams do progress from each of the groups. Which again, I think it would be better if it was 2, personally. But it's more games, more entertainment, I suppose. Possibly creates the risk of dead rubbers, possibly be gone as well. Mikey says Kerry versus Mayo and Galway versus Tyrone, the 2 standout games of week 1. And with the only team eliminated, there is 1 weak team per group. Probably no surprises: Cork, Sligo, Clare, Donegal, and Westmeath. Big question is, will there be upsets for top spot? Definitely could be. There definitely could be a few shocks. Especially with the way the championship has gone so far this year, there has been plenty of surprises, shocks, and everything else. So you would imagine there'd be more in there, in fairness. Mikey says only 4th gets knocked out after group phase. 2nd and 3rd go into a playoff against the other 2nd and 3rd teams. Not sure if 2nd gets home advantage. That's what I did hear originally, that the 2nd place sides did get home advantage. But I think I heard somewhere else as well that they're going to do it in a neutral stadium, which I think would be unfair. Like, I think it should be, the second place side should get the home advantage, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Wheelo says, great to see Mead in the Tailteann. Gavin says, poor Watford, tough group, small chance they could beat Tip. You never know. Like, they ran Tip quite closely, in fairness, a couple of weeks ago. So they might fancy their chances again. Porrick says Newbridge is closed for renovation, so Kildare home games likely to be in Portlaoise. Yeah, I wasn't too familiar with that, to be honest, but yeah, so maybe Kildare won't get their home game after all their complaining. But yeah, look, they'll have a game outside Croke Park anyway, and look, time for Kildare to put their money where their mouth is. Like, all I heard from Kildare management and their fans for the whole week is off. The game wasn't in Croke Park, blah 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 blah. Like, maybe they should just get their act together. That's what I think. If they would get their act together, they'd be more than capable of beating this Dublin team, in my opinion. Mead have a tough group with Down. I'd fancy Down for Tailteann. It is a tough group. In fairness, it is a tough one. Where would Louth play their game? Surely RD isn't big enough. Yeah, it's an interesting point actually as well. And of course, as we know, the RT cameras can't go there as well. So they probably have to find somewhere else, which again probably isn't fair. But I guess that's just how it's going to be. Monaghan Derry, that comment isn't coming up for me for some reason, but Emma Sullivan was saying there, Monaghan Derry in rematch in match day 1. It is, it is got a possible rematch there, and a chance for Monaghan to put things right, a chance for them to go out and beat Derry again. But at the same time, the last 2 times Monaghan have played Derry, it's been fairly comfortable now for Derry. Last year was a little bit closer, but again, it's a very, very tough draw there for Monaghan, in fairness. Mikey says not an easy group for Leitrim. If they had Antrim at home, I'd fancy them to progress, but it's Fermanagh at home, Antrim away, and Wexford in a neutral venue. RD or nowhere says Wheelo. Yeah, I think so. I think Louth fans should make a stand and certainly make sure they play the game somewhere. Surely there's somewhere they could play the game in Drogheda or Dundalk or something of that nature. But there you go. Mikey says Louth of Cork, a home repeat of league game, providing they don't beat the Dubs. I wouldn't write them off. Yeah, no, like I'd fancy Louth over Cork, in fairness. I would. I know Cork beat them last year, I think, in a preliminary round game, and obviously Louth beat them in the league this year. But no, I'd fancy Louth for that one. I really, really would fancy Louth. I think they're going in, with a huge amount of confidence, and I couldn't imagine they'd get a battering versus Dublin as well. So to be able to take a bit of confidence probably going into the group stages. But there we go. I suppose we'll run through the group stages again before we wrap things up. So in Group 1, it was the Munster winners, the Leinster runners up. Mayo and Cork are in there as well. Group 2 is the Connacht winners, the Ulster runner up. Tyrone and Westmeath are in there as well. Group 3 is made up of the Leinster winners, Connacht runners up, Roscommon and Kildare. And Group 4 is made up of the Ulster winners, the Munster runners up, and Monaghan and Donegal. And then looking at the Tailteann Cup in terms of how things have finished up here, or how the draw looks here. So Group 1 is Cavan and Offaly, Laois and London. Group 2, Meath, Down, Tipperary and Waterford. Group 3 is Limerick, Wicklow, Longford and Carlow. And Group 4 is Fermanagh, Antrim, Wexford and Leitrim. So there we go. Don't know what's going on here. I think I'm still here, am I? There we go. Comment coming in here from Richard. I don't know what's going on with the internet here. Are the runners up in the Ulster Championship out the following weekend, or they get a week off? I think there is a break. I think there is a week's break. There definitely should be. Anyway, it definitely would be very unfair if they went straight in. But I'm not entirely sure. Actually, that's an interesting point. Maybe does it say? It doesn't actually say the official fixtures just yet, but it'd be interesting to keep an eye on that. Michael says Mayo versus Kerry would be an interesting match. If Louth is in Group 1, I expect them to put it up against Mayo if they put in a decent shift against Dublin. Cork may also put Mayo under pressure. Absolutely, and I think it's perfect draw from a Kerry perspective because look, you know, the league they haven't really took seriously at all. Munster, very little test. Clare might put it up to them a little bit, but it will be fairly comfortable for them. So I think from a similar perspective from Dublin, you want a tough group in these group stages because you know Kerry could lose that game and it mightn't make the biggest deal in terms of the outcome of the overall season. Like it might prevent them finishing first, but you'd fancy them still to get through the group. So like it's a chance to get a tough test and get prepared for tougher games ahead because you know one of the reasons why I think Kerry were a little bit lackadaisy against Dublin last year at times was because of the fact that they didn't have much of a test going into that game. Whereas now it will be a little bit different. John says here, it may be a long way from here to Clare, but it will be a bloody short and familiar journey to Armagh, Derry and Donegal for Monaghan in the group stages of Sam Maguire, Honda Farney. Yeah, look, Monaghan will fancy their chances. Like I definitely fancy them to get out of that group in fairness. You know, I think they'll be too strong for Donegal. Should be too strong for Clare if it is the side who are in there. And yeah, they have a serious chance of getting out there in fairness. Mikey said Sligo will be relieved, especially if Louth beat the Dubs. Yeah, look, and what an opportunity for, you know, Sligo now to go to Croke Park. Just thinking about that, to play Dublin and Croke Park, which I think will be probably be a very one-sided game, but at the same time, it's a great opportunity for Sligo to get a day out. Sarah Nash says should have waited until provincial finals were done. Yeah, that's what I thought they were doing originally, but probably makes it a little bit better now, in fairness. And Mick says Armagh boo. But yeah, I suppose there we go. So there's the group stage and the Tailteann Cup draws. As I was saying before, we'll be doing a full prediction of the group stage and the Tailteann Cup in the next kind of couple of weeks. And once we know for certain who is in the group stages, but do let me know your opinions, your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know as well what you think of these group stages and who you expect to progress and everything else. So yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in, like, subscribe, and we'll see you all soon.